the Bidens are asking us to believe the following two things are true: that despite getting the best medical care in the world, that his cancer was not diagnosed before last week, even though experts suggest that the chances of that are exceedingly low. And they're asking us to admit that the exact timing of his diagnosis falls roughly halfway between the release of the announcement of his diagnosis, between the release of the Her audio tapes and the release of the book tomorrow about the cover up of his administration. And they're asking us to believe that from a family who has a documented history of not telling the truth about their personal lives when it comes to their public stakes. Could give many examples, but Biden Inc. and the president's acuity decline would be two prominent ones. So here's a clip from Morning Joe. Zeke Emanuel, a Democrat, a doctor, was asked repeatedly by the folks on Morning Joe, is it possible that the president would not have been diagnosed earlier? Here's what he said.
Yeah, you had said that very few people have it actually diagnosed at this late stage, that's rare. Doesn't it take some time for prostate cancer to develop to a point where it would spread to the bones?
Oh, he's had this for many years, maybe even a decade, growing there and spreading. That's right. And as you point out, Joe, it's been around for a very long time in President Biden years. Exactly how many we don't know, obviously. And it is a little surprising to many of us oncologists that he wasn't diagnosed earlier.
Understates the case. It's very surprising to every oncologist I've spoken to and communicated with. Pretty much the same point of view on Fox and Friends. Here's Dr. Siegel, 109.
Really surprising that it's this advanced at the time of diagnosis. Now, you can miss prostate cancer, but most of the time regular screening picks it up. A sitting president, I would expect to have advanced screening. Should not be subject to debate what kind of screening.
Okay, so what are the odds that they miss this cancer, which, based on its status, has been there for some time? Here's an article from NIH 107. Not an expert. I had to brush up on these topics in the last 20 hours or so. But here's: almost all patients with metastatic prostate cancer present with a high serum PSA level. However, progression of prostate cancer sometimes occurred despite a low serum PSA level. Those patients with metastatic prostate cancer and low serum level of PSA account for less than 1% of all patients. Okay, so maybe the president, somehow they missed it, but he's the president of the United States. He got excellent care. So last thing I'll say, and then want to hear from Hogan and Dan, is I said during the election, during the presidency rather, that if the Bidens weren't getting the president tested for Alzheimer's and other similar things, they were doing him a huge disservice. And if they were, they should have published the results of those tests. Don't know which they did. Well, we know they didn't publish the results of such tests, but I don't know if they didn't do them or they just did them and didn't publish them. As best I can tell, his PSA level was never released as part of the readouts of his exams. So I say once again, if he was tested and they didn't release the results, shame on them. If he wasn't tested, then they should sue the White House physician for malpractice. Hogan.
Agree with both of those things. And this is not lip service. I do want to say cancer is a horrible thing. I've had several relatives suffer from it, die from it, and I hate that anyone would get it, much less a former president. So my heart is with the family. My prayers are with them as well. But that's not what this conversation's about. It's about the politics of a cover-up. We already know they've lied about his health, both his physical and mental abilities in the last 4 years. It would not shock me at all. This is another way they moved to protect the president from the reality of his health and his problems, preventing the American people from seeing it. I will say I guess two choices are absolutely correct. You know, they should go after the physician if this was missed in a way that clearly shows most everyone else agrees should have been something caught through regular screenings, through regular health processes, et cetera. And I will say, having been in the Trump administration, every single time he did a physical, the scrutiny on every single piece of medication he took, the questions were relentless about his health. He's overweight, he's going to die, all these things. It was missed again with Joe Biden, and not on purpose. This is not by accident, it's by design. And I'm afraid this is just another in a long line of problems that we're going to learn about in the coming weeks and days, or weeks and months.
Dan.
Yeah, I think, Mark, as you said, like history is not going to be kind to how to Joe Biden's health, the last 2 years of his presidency. I agree with you. It is hard to imagine that this was missed given the amount of care that he was receiving. He got COVID at the end of his White House. So assume he was in the getting tested and they were checking him out for various things. They probably did some blood work around that. The only thing I can think of is if he did get it or they did catch it, it was likely quite recently, because the question, if they knew about it for, let's say, a year, is did he then get treatment, and how could you hide surgery and chemo? I mean, we didn't see him a lot, but like every few weeks or so, every week he was in public. And if he has advanced cancer, I would imagine they threw the kitchens or are throwing the kitchen sink at it. So if he was was he diagnosed potentially in, like, let's say December, and they were able to keep it quiet through January 20th? Possible. We didn't see him much between the election and like the first week of January. He was very kind of out of the public eye. So it's not a good look. I hope they didn't hide this as well. Every time I think the Democratic Party can't get lower, I seem to get surprised.
Yeah. So your scenario of was he diagnosed? There's a video of him saying he had cancer, which the White House at the time said he misspoke. But your scenario where he had it and they secretly treated him, I can't rule it out.
Sure.
Can't rule it out. But at the same time, again, the experts and the data suggest that having advanced cancer like this is not something that just pops up. And again, some of the literature says someone his age wouldn't be tested regularly, although most of the literature says they would, and the president would be tested regularly under normal circumstances. Hey, want to be part of the two-way community all the time? Hit the subscribe button. Great video clips like this, plus conversations like no other, full episodes and more, always available on this channel. You got to hit subscribe to never miss a thing.